Hello guys, my name is Rastility, and I'm a YouTuber that focuses on going as fast as possible. Today, the question I have proposed is, how good is the new Mortar rebalance? I offer you a simple answer. Mortar is the absolute best crowd control tower, and I'd absolutely recommend him. However, there's a simple way to maximize the amount of DPS you can get with him with one simple trick. By setting him on strongest, you can make the most out of his incredibly high damage hits and get the most out of his huge blast radius. So make sure to always have him set on strongest. There's the simple answer though. If you'd like to hear more about the details, then stay. However, if you don't care, then thanks for watching. You can click off if you'd like. Let's get into the details of Mortar now. I'll try not to waste your time. Mortar has absolutely no cap on how many enemies he can hit at once. This means that his DPS of 149.6 can multiply infinitely if you use him optimally. That's right, infinitely. However, his explosion radius won't always give the maximum amount of DPS spread across to every enemy due to how his explosion cloud works. There are two sectors of his explosion cloud, the main radius and the outer ring. Every single enemy hit in the main radius will be dealt with the full 200 damage at max level, while every enemy in the outer ring will be hit with less damage. It isn't exactly stated how much damage will be dealt to each target in the outer ring, however, it is said that it scales depending on just how far in the outer ring the enemy is. This is just my own assumption, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that each enemy hit just slightly by the outer ring will take 50% damage, while I think enemies that are barely hit by the explosion will take 10% damage. Again, correct me if I'm wrong, this is just my own assumption, so take it with a grain of salt. This means that you want to try to get as many enemies hit in the main radius of the explosion as possible. A good way to do this is by pairing him with freezing towers like Cryomancer, Freezer, or even Frost Blaster. However, if you do not have room for a freezing tower, then your best bet is to set Mortar on strongest, where it can just attack the stronger, slower enemies while also catching crossing enemies that are faster and weaker. So like mentioned before, Mortar is a tower that is best paired with sub supports. This means that Mortar can be classified as a sub DPS tower. So while Mortar is an absolutely great tower with an insane amount of DPS, it's probably best that you don't use him as your main DPS. When you're in a squad or trio, you can most definitely try to bring Mortar alongside a main DPS if other teammates are bringing stun towers. Trust me, they'll absolutely thank you. However, I failed to mention that Mortar is a cliff tower in this video. This means that you probably do not want to use Mortar in towers lacking cliff spots. You want to ensure that the map you're playing has a lot of cliff spots, as Mortar is definitely not the only cliff tower in the game, and players are sure to bring other cliff towers like Ranger for main DPS. So if your teammate brings Ranger and the map you're choosing doesn't have a lot of cliff spots, try to ask them to change the map. If they refuse, adapt to the scenario and completely remove Mortar from your loadout. Again, Mortar is a sub DPS tower and is most definitely not needed, so try to help out your teammates and not waste cliff spots if they need them for towers like Ranger. Thank you for watching my video. For today's tier list ranking, I'm going to be putting Mortar in A tier. This is because while Mortar has great potential to help your team, he just isn't needed and falls off if you don't have sub-supporting towers that can stun. That's it for today. Have a great rest of your day or night, and goodbye!